Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Meet the People. My name is David Feiner. I am the Communication Technology Manager in the City of Pittsburgh's Department of Innovation and Performance. Today we have a little bit of a different episode because we have an entire City Council office sitting to my left, your right on the screen. I'd like to welcome everybody from District 3. Hey guys, what's going on?
Hey David.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
This is the first time we've had an entire City Council office in the studio at the same time.
Well, I think that it's important, and we'll talk a little bit about my background, but as a former staffer, I know that that none of this work gets done without the full staff and your full office here. So I'm thankful that I'm able to be sitting here with the people that do the real work here in the city.
So basically, we're done with the whole interview now. That was everything we needed to talk about.
Well, it's been fun, David. Thank you.
What I'd like to do is start off by asking each of you a little bit of a personal history, where you're from, and job history, and how you got to the point where you are today. And any one of you can start, doesn't matter.
My name is Alicia Carberry. I am in the role of policy director in the office. I've worked for the city for a little more than 8 years now, starting actually in City Council District 8 office a number of years ago. I've also worked in the mayor's office for 2 different chief operating officers, all kinds of things related to mostly trash, but city infrastructure. And from there, I was in Public Works for a little while, helping with the recycling division. And when Bob became councilperson, I was really anxious and excited to try to get my foot in the door. And Bob, we knew each other from being colleagues and staffers and doing all kinds of research on abandoned properties and rats. And I have a lot of respect for him. I'm really happy to be part of the office.
Awesome. Joyce.
Well, hi, I'm Joyce Pagan. I am Councilperson Charlin's Chief of Staff. I kind of had a weird trajectory to this job. So when I went to college, I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina, I wanted to do history and international studies. I wanted to be a researcher, but then I studied abroad in Ecuador, and you see a lot of human suffering. It's just so visible, not in the way that it is in the United States, in my experience, and it just had a profound impact on me, and I realized that I couldn't just sit behind a computer and just sit there and read books. Like, I needed to do something that was more front-facing, more people-centered. And so I went to Pitt. I went to the Graduate School of Public and International Affairs for my master's in Public and International Affairs. And I intended on doing international work, but then a position as a legislative aide in Councilman Krause's office opened up. And I thought it would be an interesting job, and I could stay in Pittsburgh for another year at least. And then I found myself really liking work in local government. And then when Councilperson Charlin won his election, I asked him if I could stay on as his chief of staff, and we talked about it, and we decided that it was a good fit, and here I am.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
And Bob.
So I, like many people in kind of these positions, I never saw myself running for office. This was never my dream or my goal. My undergrad is in biology and physics, chemistry, and spent a lot of my 20s bartending and working on environmental campaigns. And then I started moving more to the real political side. Got involved with Councilman Krause's office, eventually became his chief of staff, and really loved the work that I was doing, and realized that if I wanted to continue doing this work, working with the great people we work with, that the only way that I would be able to continue that trajectory is to run for his seat when he retired. So I did that, was successful, and I'm still able to continue working for residents of South Pittsburgh and Oakland every day, and that's something I don't take lightly, and something I really appreciate, being able to do that work and being able to act in service there.
Can each of you name all of the neighborhoods that you serve?
We could popcorn it. Alphabetically?
We absolutely can. I would say that one of the things is that sometimes you may call something a neighborhood that is not a neighborhood.
Right.
A great example is Oak Cliff, which is really in South Oakland, but is a region of South Oakland. So we represent Oakland, but Oakland by the city's 90 neighborhoods is really 3 different neighborhoods.
Yep.
But depending on who you talk to, it's either one neighborhood or it's 5 different neighborhoods that we represent. Across the river, we've got Southside Flats, Southside Slopes. Going up the hill, we've got Arlington and Arlington Heights. We have Mount Oliver and St. Clair. We have Beltshoover, Knoxville, Allentown, Mount Washington, and I think I've done all of them.
You have.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Kind of went around that way.
Now you can stay.
Yeah.
What I've always noticed so I'm not from Pittsburgh. Everybody knows that. But I married a Pittsburgher, and when giving directions, and I'm sure it happens in your district as well, when giving directions, they don't say what's there now. They say
Never.
what was there 50 years ago.
Yes.
So that must be fun also.
Yeah, it's specifically fun when we talk about like churches that have changed names.
Yes.
I think that's where I have the most fun here is you really have to learn not what the church is called now, especially as the diocese has changed things around. It's not the church that's there now. It's the church that was there before the last merger.
Yeah.
You know, and it may not actually be a church anymore. Maybe it's condos now. But you need to know. You know, I live in St. Matthew's Church. Is actually so. St. Matthew's hasn't been a church for,
Of course.
quite some time.
So I want to go backward before we go forward and talk about your office and your priorities and what you plan to do for the next 3.75 years. I want to go backwards and go back to the inauguration. So you win the election in November, and Councilman Kraus, who had been here for a very long time, decided to retire. So you win the election, and during the swearing-in ceremony, your inauguration, so I've been here 12 years, almost 12 years, and you're the first inauguration speech that added a bit of humor. So before I ask you about that, I want to play a clip from the speech, and we'll come back.
I want to start off by apologizing to any frequent observers of Pittsburgh City Council. Any parents in the audience will understand this. If you have a student who is a good student in class, but happens to sit next to the bad kid and get in trouble, according to the alphabetical order, I'm next to Anthony Coghill. I was a good student. My mom's here. You can ask her.
A lot of people laughed in the room that day. Why was it important for you to inject your personality, your humor into that moment?
Well, David, can I tell you a little bit of a secret?
Yes, you can. Nobody watches this anyway.
I can sometimes be a little bit nervous when I public speak, and this was definitely the largest audience I was speaking to. My trick for public speaking is I know that if I make people laugh, I immediately feel more comfortable.
Okay.
So I knew I wanted to start off with a couple jokes there. Councilman Coghill is a good friend, and I formerly worked in his office, ran his campaign, and I knew that it was easy to be able to inject some camaraderie in there from the get go. So I think that's important. Also, I think kind of the way that I see myself and the work we do is incredibly serious, but I don't take myself too seriously, and I think that's really important there. So.
Joyce and Alicia, you were in the audience that day as he was being sworn in. You knew you were going to be working for City Council, and you were probably already had put your jackets on chairs back in the office. What was that moment like for you, the both of you, seeing your boss being sworn in as the new City Council member for District 3?
I mean, I feel like the council person welcomed in a new era, or ushered in a new era, perhaps. It was just so exciting to hear him talk about his vision for District 3, the work that he wants to do. I'm very glad that I get to work for a personable and funny council member. Very honored.
This is the first time she's ever acknowledged that I'm funny.
And the last time, most likely.
Let the record show.
But it was very exciting to be in the audience. I remember Alicia and I were sweating a lot. It was very hot in there, but I would say that Councilperson Charlin's speech was the most, what's the word? Charismatic? Not charismatic.
Yeah.
Charismatic, perhaps, or just the most exciting, the most passionate. Not that the other members didn't have good speeches, but you could really feel the excitement from Councilperson Charland.
Yeah, for me, it was also very celebratory. It was reaffirming that we're all part of, we all have hearts for public service. And I had actually never heard you speak in such a dynamic way. And I was very impressed. I was like, okay, here we go.
So the work starts, and even though it's a celebratory day, the work actually starts pretty quickly. So we are now 3 months in, approximately 3 months in to your first term. To Joyce and Alicia first, let's talk about the first 100 days. How have things been going so far?
It's been really fun. I am the person in the office who has the biggest learning curve, so I have been really benefiting from the institutional knowledge of these two. It's been really fun to get to go to all of the regular neighborhood meetings, get to meet the people who are making change happen block by block, and getting to know people, build rapport, and hear what they are passionate about, and start to craft all kinds of things that can help to improve.
Well, for me, honestly, it's been really exciting. It's been really fast paced, and I knew everything was going to move quickly. I just was not prepared for how quickly things were going to move. I remember, I think I took one day off and I had 100 emails in my inbox. I don't know, 100 people. So it was just, so it was very stressful to see that. I just feel like I haven't relaxed once since we've transitioned into our new roles. And yeah, as a legislative aide, I was not party perhaps or responsible for as much as I'm responsible for now. And so it's been very different. One thing that I've continued to hold on to is taking constituent calls with obviously Alicia's help. But that's been really nice that I've still been able to really be a part of the community. I never wanted to let that go, and I made it clear with the council person. But one thing that's been really nice is working with Alicia. Alicia has a lot of institutional knowledge. I have almost 2 years of experience in the city, but Alicia has like 7-8 years. And Alicia is in my time in this office, I've been more like administrative and like constituent relations, but I haven't really been able to be very future thinking or forward thinking. Everything for me has been like day to day, just making sure everything is handled as needed. But Alicia is she's very creative, and it's really nice to have a partner in the office who I can bounce ideas off of, who can give me creative solutions. It's been really nice to work with someone who's fresh to the office. No offense to Bob.
So
for
Bob,
saying
after you took office, I remember you advertising a listening tour.
Yeah.
So where did that idea come from, and how did that listening tour go, and is it still going on?
So as most of my ideas for this office happen, it's usually like some time in the night where I can't fall asleep. I have some sort of idea, and the phrase I think I read somewhere that I really wanted to dwell on was the idea of listen first, act second. So although I'd worked in the office for a number of years and campaigning, I door knocked every door in the district. I thought it was really important to have a different avenue where we could listen to people's concerns and make sure that we're really advocating for the things that people wanted to see from us, and not just our own ideas of how the city should work here. So we did this Listen First tour in every neighborhood in the city, and honestly, it was really rewarding for me, having spent a lot of time in the community meetings. We had an idea of what we might hear, but actually giving people an avenue to just address what they want to address from a city council person has been really rewarding. We heard some different things that maybe we wouldn't hear, some different emphasis on what's important to people. I started with a question of, what would I do that would make you say that I was doing a good job? And people had some ideas about that. It was a little different in every neighborhood, but I think the overarching concepts rang true, and there are definitely things that we're going to lead with here in the city. So it was rewarding for me. It's something that I'll continue doing, some form of a public hearing moving forward. Just not on an issue specific, but doing just, hey, I'm here. What do you want to tell me?
I don't remember, it's probably happened before, but I don't remember a brand new city council member coming in and going right into the community. I'm assuming it wasn't all 100%. Everything's fantastic. You're
No.
awesome.
No.
How now? Did all three of you go to these events? And
Yeah.
what was it like for the two of you to hear not just an email or a phone call, but to hear from them sitting 15 feet from you?
Well, I kind of want to rewind a little bit. So I started planning for this Listen First tour back in November, December. I remember Bob walked in, he was like, I want to do a tour. And then he turned around and walked out, and I was like, I don't know what that means. And so it took months. It took months to plan this out. But I remember I was struck when I started reaching out to the community, asking them, like pitching this idea, and also asking them where we could host this, who could provide food, things like that. The community was so welcoming, and they were so willing to go above and beyond. I remember, this might not sound the best, but I remember that we held one of his tours at a recreation center, and they usually have a basketball game, and it's so loud, and I knew that nobody would be able to hear him because we didn't have a mic, and so I talked to the center director, and she got things not canceled, rescheduled for the record for us so that Bob could have a quieter meeting, and that meant a lot. Like I don't know. And I felt really bad asking, but she was like, no worries. I want this to be as much of a success as possible. So that was really nice. But it was really interesting hearing from a variety of constituents. We did a very painful postcard mailing. I think we sent out 30,000 postcards, and it was like weeks, probably months long design process. Shout out to Kelly in our office for doing that. And so we really tried to reach out to as many people as we could with what resources we had. And so just meeting new people, I feel like a good amount of community members, a good might be a strong word, through talking on the phone and just emails and such or social media, but just seeing them in person, just meeting just these new faces, and our office was as welcoming as possible. It was just really nice to show people that we were there we were going to be there for them moving forward permanently. We wouldn't be a face they see once and they never see again.
Right.
So I hope that made sense.
No, it did. So from the listening tour, I'm sure that there was a legislative agenda, things you wanted to accomplish even before your listening tour. So why don't the three of you talk a little bit about the legislative agenda and what are some of the things that you're looking to accomplish, not only day one, year one, but throughout the 4-year term?
So one of the things that I came in knowing, but it was helpful to have reinforced from the listening tour, is that our city has a problem with trash. I said it in my swearing-in speech, and I mean this to be true, that our city is dirty, and we need to make sure that we have laser focus on finding solutions to clean up our city. Why our city is dirty is a multifaceted problem. There's not one solution that's going to solve all of our issues here, but it's something that I was really kind of in tune with, having visited other cities, having spent time elsewhere. I think that it's something that we need to address and we need to take seriously. And frankly, policy or personnel is policy, and that was one of the big selling points for why I wanted to bring Alicia into our office here, is because nobody has dealt more with the pinch points in what we need to do to clean up our city than Alicia. So bringing Alicia into the office, I think, was really important. But we've got a lot of work to do. I was just driving through one of our neighborhoods yesterday, and I'm just thinking the amount of trash in our sidewalks and in our hillsides is just unacceptable.
Did you know that Alicia once held her own birthday party by asking everybody to pick up trash?
That's a selling point.
With much support from Allegheny Cleanways. Yeah, I've done that a couple of times now.
She knows more about trash than the rest of us will forget. I mean, she's a perfect person to have on your staff if that's a huge point of your office.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Alicia, talk about your history with trash.
Okay. Well, I do want to note that even though I have been working on trash-related initiatives for a number of years, I don't have a lot to show for it. So there a number of things that we can be doing better, that the city can be doing better, to be better partners to the community members, going out and cleaning up trash. But the my favorite thing in all of this is getting to help to start the Garbage Olympics, which will be celebrating its 8th year this September 21st. The Garbage Olympics is a citywide trash competition, kind of leveraging the competitive nature Pittsburghers tend to have, pitting neighborhood against neighborhood to see who can get the most. Well, it doesn't end up just being litter. It's TVs, tires, mattresses, upholstered furniture, and the like. Off of city streets, and we have a big closing ceremony, celebrate everyone's work, make new friends. But yeah, along with cleanup efforts, there needs to be better enforcement from the city. So that is going to be a priority. Previously, I've been fortunate enough to work on policy changes to the city's illegal dumping and littering code, which now, it used to say just a generic debris, and now it says the top 5 baddies from the Garbage Olympics. Those tires, TVs, upholstered furniture, etc.
Well, one of the things that's really funny is, I think there's a belief that working in city government, people have a view from Veep or West Wing or whatever show what they think working in city government is like. But in reality, I spend the majority of my day talking about trash. And if you don't like talking about trash, this is probably not the place for you. So
it's kind of like The Office.
It's like,
instead of trash, they talk about paper.
Exactly. It's really like Parks and Rec. It's but it is. It's what people care about. It's what, when people come out their door and they want to see a neighborhood that they take pride in and a sense of place that matters to them, and they don't want to see piles of trash and neighborhoods that look like they aren't cared about.
What are some of the other topics that are near and dear to your collective hearts that are important to your office?
So one of the other issues that I look at a lot is how hard it is to build in the city of Pittsburgh. So I have spent a lot of time, if issues with trash or abandoned houses or urban blight as a whole are the number one issue we get. Probably number 2 is someone who's trying to get a building permit or to build something and can't figure out how. So our office spends a lot of time in the courts working with property issues. And one of the issues that we see time and time again is just how hard it is for a small contractor to figure out how to get a permit to build anything in the city. And in all likelihood, these are the folks that are really trying to do it the right way. And sometimes I think that it would be better if they were just fly-by-night operators and just skirted the system and didn't bother getting permits, because it is so hard for them to navigate that. So that's something that I'm really focused on, figuring out how we can streamline that process, what we can change in our zoning code, what we can change in terms of incentives to make it easier for folks to build, be it a deck in a property in Knoxville, or how we can make sure we're getting reinvestment into downtown moving forward here. We need to be concerned about the development of the city and how we move forward and how we can grow.
Do you feel that the obstacles or roadblocks, pardon the pun, that people are experiencing, is it technology? Is it access? What are the residents and businesses running into that makes it difficult?
I think more than anything, it's communication.
Okay.
So we have, if you are a large-scale developer, it is very easy for you to figure out how you can work our process here. If you are a smaller 2-person shop and you want to get permitting and do a roof or a deck or windows, you may not know all the steps that are required, and we as the city put it on that small business owner to figure this out. We don't do the work to educate and make sure that a contractor knows exactly what they need to submit, when they need to submit it, how it needs to be submitted. I said this at a briefing last week, but I've got good friends that open up a coffee shop, and they said that from the moment that they decided they wanted to open a coffee shop, where they had some really good ideas about what they can do with coffee, they became, they were no longer experts in coffee and had to become experts in permitting. And until the day that they opened, when they said, oh my gosh, we need to figure out to learn about coffee again, they were figuring out how building codes worked and how to work with architects and how to work with fire retardant paint and those kind of things. And that, that shouldn't be a barrier for someone who wants to do something great in our city.
That's a great point. So from your perspective, working in the office, you're taking the phone calls, I'm assuming, that people are confused, complaining, happy. What has been the reaction? Curious. What are some of the reactions that you've been listening to and seeing from constituents?
Yeah. Well, if I could also note, Joyce shouted out Kelly, our intern, who helps with all kinds of graphic design. We're also, we have a wonderful person named Marion from the University of Pittsburgh with us, as well as Marissa from Duquesne University. And we did not mention Donna, who also in our office works on all kinds of senior services programming. So, we answer the phones from 9 to 5, any one of us in the office, and it can be, quite the range, quite the roller coaster. Oftentimes, it would be somebody calling to say that they had, notified the city of a certain issue via 311 and needed some help seeing, how to escalate that. The problem wasn't resolved right away, where to go from here. What are some of your favorite hot trends?
Well, this isn't a trend, but speaking of this office being very Parks and Rec, I remember someone called and they were really mad about the height of a parking garage, and they asked me if I could find out how tall a parking garage was, and find out if I could go to the site and see if their car could fit through. And I was like, "Do you know who you're calling?" And so I just always remember that whenever I'm when things are getting too serious in the office, I remember that we take calls like that. But sometimes I remember when I first started, Bob said, I think it was my first day, he said when people call, just pretend like they're having the worst day of their life and just remember that they're not taking it out on you personally. And that's actually been one of Bob's rare pieces of good advice. And so yeah, I've always held on to that, truly. And so because we get funny calls, but sometimes we get very difficult calls where people are being evicted from their homes, or people, they're dealing with a sewer line breakage on their property and they don't know what to do about it. It's a $10,000 fix, things like that. Or they have their home and they can't take care of it, things like that. Just it's really sad to hear some of these stories, but also it's really nice that in our position that we have so many resources at our disposal. And a lot of times, for example, the Hilltop Alliance is a huge nonprofit very important to us. They're a big nonprofit in District 3, and they help us with all kinds of issues, and people have never heard of them in their lives. And I point them to the Hilltop Alliance, and it's not like this, but it's almost like this, where they're able to get the resources they need, the people, the funding, whatever. So it can be difficult, but sometimes it can be rewarding, and sometimes it can be really funny.
Do you find that people are calling the office and asking you questions that have nothing to do with what you do? They're using you as a conduit. How do I get to this? Or
there was a woman who used to call the office regularly to ask when businesses were opened and closed, and I would just Google what time does the UPS store open? But she didn't have the ability to Google something, and it allowed me an opportunity to build a relationship with someone. So I said to the office at one point, and I think this is a line from, I don't know, one of the Wall Street banks or something, where I expect you to know nothing, but I expect you to be able to learn everything. Yeah. And that's kind of our goal here, is that some people can call us for any reason, and frankly, we make it really hard to be a citizen sometimes. And we've got 4 different levels of government that you may have to work with in the city, and someone calls us and they want to know how to get their passport solved, and we have nothing to do with passport expedition, but we can connect you with Congresswoman Lee's office, and we can connect you with the county or Representative Benham or Abney or any of the other partners we work with, and just the beauty of the council offices are that we have 33,663 residents, and they know us and may not know Congresswoman Lee or the mayor, but they might be our first call when they figure out an issue that we have nothing to do with there. So
I like what you said at the beginning of that answer, because I've often told my staff that we don't get paid for the 99% of the time something goes right.
Yes.
We get paid for the 1% of the time something goes wrong.
Yeah.
And so finding the answer for somebody or fixing a problem for somebody is what they'll remember, not all the proclamations or the ribbons that you cut or all the money that you save. It's going to be how you fixed a problem.
Yeah. And Joyce said it right. It's when people call our office, it generally is the worst moment of their life, and they're calling us asking for help. And we may be able to help. We may be just someone that can connect them with someone who can help, but we want to take that seriously. And this is probably not the way this person wants to be perceived, but we're here to help, and that's, public service.
That's great. Are there any other priority talking points that come from your office? Anything else you want to bring up that you haven't talked about yet?
One of the things that's become really important here, and frankly, it isn't something that I wanted to be diving into my first year, but it's such a pressing issue, is our budget and our financial state here in the city. It's something that City Council is taking very seriously, and something that on our side of the hall we don't take lightly. We know that the next 2 years are going to be very tight, and with the impacts of the pandemic and federal relief money running out, we're going to have to make some difficult decisions, and we need to start preparing for those right now. So that we're lucky to have Controller Heisler leading kind of the charge on some of these issues, and I'm really thankful for her partnership and some of her guidance here as we look through what the numbers are actually looking like.
With that in mind, is this something that can be solved today, tomorrow, next week, next year, 10 years? How does the city, I mean, I sit through the budget hearings because I'm paid to sit through the budget hearings.
Sure.
But the average constituent who's watching this may not watch all 300 hours of budget hearings. How is this problem fixed?
Yeah, I think, you asked the question of the timeline here, and the reality is that we are not in a crisis today. We are going to be in a crisis next year, and we need to be preparing today for what next year looks like. So there is a fiscal cliff that will hit in a couple years here that hopefully will free us up from some of our debt obligations from previous years, but the time between now and then is going to look pretty scary. I think that one of the things that's interesting here is that every department comes to us during the budget hearings, and they have their wish list of these are the things that we want to see. And we can obviously see that all those things they're asking for are good things. Those are things that we would want to do. And it falls on us as the council and the mayor's office to determine what are the things that we can really afford to do. So we're going to have to make some tough decisions moving forward here, and it's not the position that any of us want to be in, but I'm lucky enough also to have worked closely with Councilman Kraus in previous years, and understanding what the beginning years of Act 47 and bankruptcy really meant, and not opening rec centers and not opening pools and not being able to do any of the things that make the city of Pittsburgh great is not something that we want to pass on for the next couple of years, or we'll continue to see more population loss.
I think it's also, Act 47 is recent enough that, I was here.
Yeah.
I came in, we were under Act 47. So I knew the budgetary constraints that we were under, and I don't want to go back to that either.
Yeah.
I can imagine, because it's recent enough, there are enough people that work in this building that, I don't want to do that again.
Yeah, and it's true. But also at the same time, Act 47 in 2017 was very different from Act 47 in 2011. and we've got almost a brand new council from that time. A new administration, new department directors, and but having it's almost like the when you talk to people that had parents that lived in the Great Depression, and because of that they put all of their Ziploc bags in the dishwasher and those sort of things. I feel like I'm the child of Depression parents from Bruce Krause and Bill Peduto horror stories. So.
I just saw a meme the other day. In the 1980s, when our grandparents talked about the 1940s, that's like us talking about the 1980s now.
Well, David, I'm not going to tell you what year I was born.
Awesome. That's great. Moving on. All right. I've run out of questions. Is there anything else the three of you want to add? How do people get in contact with your office? What do they do if somebody's watching this for the very first time?
Should I point to the bottom of the screen?
You should point to the bottom of the screen.
412-255-2130. Or you can always email district3@pittsburghpa.gov. Pittsburgh all spelled out.
And you are... I'm glad that I have this handy dandy pamphlet. Well, it's not a pamphlet. What do we call this?
It's a rack card, apparently.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So this card is being handed out. There's only, about 5 million of them that were made. So hurry up and get yours. That tells you everything you need to know about Bob Charland and City Council. Nice picture on the bottom. Yes,
Yeah.
Alicia?
If I could also note, just recently we've started up a satellite office in Knoxville.
Oh, perfect.
Friday afternoons from 1 to 4:30 at the Brashear Association on Brownsville Road. I would say Bob ran on a platform of meeting people where they are and accessibility along with accountability. So yeah, we're really excited about that and invite anyone to stop by, say hello, ask questions, have a conversation, get connected.
I also love that on the back of this card, it's going to be hard to see on camera, but the QR codes. I think these are fantastic. I am an old person, and I don't usually like new things, but QR codes are awesome. So I love that you put those there, so people can connect that way.
It might be one of the good things that came out of the pandemic. I think people got more comfortable using QR codes through the pandemic, so we're more comfortable using them now.
And I like at the very bottom you have written, "Don't see your reason, reach out to our office anyways. We're always happy to help." And I think that's a great way to finish your commercial.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Just want to thank you for taking interest in our office here, and thank you and you and the crew for all the work that you guys do every day, often behind the scenes to bring the work that we're doing here in city government to residents and make it accessible. So just really want to thank you for that.
Make sure I pay you. I have money somewhere.
Yeah, I'm looking for the stipend there. So no, but yeah, thank you, and not just you, but everyone that works with you.
Well, you're welcome.
Thanks,
So,
David.
thanks for coming in, and thanks for watching. We hope you join us next time right here on Meet the People.